I think we can start, Mr. Chair.
That's fine. Let's go ahead. Are we online?
Yes, we are already online and the recording started.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to some of the colleagues throughout the world. My name is Clinton Hyman. I'm the co-chair with Dr. Al Sahel and with Deirdre Bishop, and together we are taking you for this session, and we've done a previous session, and the idea is that we take you through the introduction or induction to the 16th session as we prepare this road going forward. I think that, colleagues, it's a privilege to welcome you to this induction webinar as we continue the road to the 16th session of the United Nations Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information Management. I'm pleased to be joined today by Dr. Al Sahel from Saudi Arabia and Ms. Alma Brook, also from Saudi Arabia, and they will be making closing comments later on, as well as giving us a taste of the World Congress that will be taking place in Jeddah in November this year. Let me then go directly to the presentation today. Instead of us going through a long welcoming, because you'll be listening to my voice for a long time, I just want to say that it is really an honor to be able to take you through this. I've also been new to the whole UN system about 3 or 4 years ago, and I think these presentations really do help us to understand how and how the system works and what we should expect for the coming week in New York. So the purpose of today's presentation is to help you, the participants, and especially those attending the annual sessions for the first time, to become familiar with the committee, the structure of the session, the documentation, and the practical steps that will make your participation in New York productive and rewarding. The Bureau welcomes you to the United Nations and to the 16th session of the United Nations Committee of Experts on Global Information Management, or, as it's better known, the UN-GGIM. This presentation is designed to introduce participants who are attending the annual session for the first time, as well as those who may have attended before, to the work of the committee and the formalities associated with the United Nations intergovernmental sessions. The aim of this presentation is very practical. We want to assist delegates who are new to the work of the committee so that they enjoy the week at the United Nations headquarters, so that it's productive, that they're well prepared, and it is rewarding. To begin, it is useful to locate the UN-GGIM within the broader United Nations system. The United Nations is comprised of 6 main organs: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Councils, the Secretariat, the International Court for Justice, and the Trusteeship Council. Our work in the UN-GGIM is directly associated with the Economic and Social Council, or ECOSOC. ECOSOC is the principal organ used to coordinate economic, social, and related work of the United Nations, and that includes the global information management. We also rely closely on the Secretariat, specifically the UN-GGIM Secretariat, to help coordinate, support, and guide the work of the committee. Next slide, please. This slide shows you the United Nations system in a different way. On the left, you can see the principal organs across the across the diagram. The subsidiary bodies and related entities are shown in the different areas and colors. For our purpose today, the important point is that the UN-GGIM is a subsidiary expert body of ECOSOC. In other words, it is the peak intergovernmental body of geospatial information management. It is the global platform where member states coordinate with one another and with international organizations and other stakeholders on the management and use of geospatial information. Next slide, please. Our program for today has 4 parts. Part 1 focuses on the UN-GGIM itself, which is the committee of experts, its objectives, its architecture, and functional groups. Part 2 covers the events and plenary sessions associated with the 16th session. Part 3 provides an overview of documentation, including how documents are structured, how symbols are used, and how delegates can prepare. Finally, Part 4 discusses your role. What to do before the session, what to do while in New York, and how to prepare interventions and how to stay engaged between sessions. Next slide, please. Let us start with the objectives of the United Nations Geospatial Information Management Expert Group. The committee reports directly to ECOSOC, as previously mentioned. It discusses and coordinates geospatial information management activities by involving member states at the highest level. It makes joint decisions and sets direction on the use of geospatial information within the national, regional, and global policy frameworks. The committee also contributes to collective knowledge. We come together as a community with shared interests and concerns, and we address global issues and challenges together. I think that's very important. Finally, the UN-GGIM develops effective strategies to strengthen and enhance national integrated geospatial capacity and leadership, particularly in developing countries. Next slide, please, Ekram. Thank you. This slide introduces the architecture of the Committee of Experts. At the center is the UN-GGIM itself. The committee is organized with the support of the Bureau, which is made up of 3 co-chairs and 1 rapporteur. It is supported by 5 regional committees: Africa, the Americas, the Arab states, Asia, and the Pacific, and Europe. The committee also benefits from thematic networks, the geospatial societies, the academic network, the private sector network, and the United Nations Geospatial Network. On the right-hand side, you will see the Secretariat support from the Statistics Division of DISA and the Geospatial Information Section. The architecture is important because it shows us that the United Nations Expert Group for Geospatial Information Management is not only a meeting in New York. It is a global structure that works throughout the year. Next slide, please. Here we see the Bureau in more detail. Under Rule 7 of the committee's rules of procedure, the committee elects 3 co-chairs and a rapporteur during each session, with due regard of equitable geographic rotation among the regional groups. For the 16th session, the Bureau is comprised of Dr. Mohammed Asahel, co-chair of Saudi Arabia, Clinton Hyman, myself, co-chair of South Africa, and Deirdre Dalpiers Bishop, co-chair from the United States of America. Ms. Jan Hicks is the rapporteur from Fiji. So the Bureau really helps us guide the annual sessions and carries the work forward during the intersessional period. The UN-GGIM architecture on the next slide, please. This slide returns to the broader architecture, but now you can see also the related documentation symbols on the right-hand side. For example, the Bureau is associated with document E/C.20/2026/4. The regional committees are associated with E/C.20/2026/5, and the thematic networks are associated with E/C.20/2026/6. And I think you'll become very familiar with this style of referencing as you prepare for the sessions. It does take a while, and I would suggest that you review the documentation well in advance of the session if you haven't already started, because it will help you prepare for the sessions. The documentation symbols are connected with the different parts of the committee's architecture to the substantive agenda and annual sessions. Thank you, Akram. Next slide, please. We can now turn to the functional groups of the committee. The UN-GGIM has a high-level group focused on the United Nations Integrated Geospatial Information Framework, or the UN-IGIF. It also has a subcommittee focusing on geodesy. There are expert groups, including those focused on the integration of statistical and geospatial information and on land administration and management. There are also working groups and task teams dealing with areas such as maritime, geospatial information, policy and legal frameworks, future geospatial information ecosystems, and climate resilience. And all of these groups contribute to the committee's program of work. They help build frameworks, guidance, knowledge, and capacity for global geospatial information community. Next slide, please. Next, we'll move to the functional groups in the agenda. On this slide, you can see how the work of the functional groups is reflected in the agenda of the 16th session. Each agenda item is associated with a document symbol. For example, the provisional agenda is E/C.20/2026/1. The organization of work is E/C.20/2026/3. Enhancing global geospatial information management arrangements is E/C.20/2026/4. Yes, these are long numbers, but the importance of them is to locate yourself within the program throughout the agenda. And this is very useful, as it might seem unclear at first as the agenda proceeds. I think for myself, one of the important lessons is the committee and the Bureau don't always follow this agenda. It shifts around based on time left in the day. So you might think your item is up next, and only to find that it's been delayed to one of the other sessions. I think that's very important, because attendance is therefore vital. Otherwise, you might find yourself not being able to present your country's position or your bureau or your region's position. And I think this is why preparation is so important. The agenda is substantial, and it touches many parts of the global geospatial information ecosystem. I just want to add here that you will notice in the beginning, the agenda allows for all countries, obviously, as we go through the agenda items, to participate. The co-chairs will take responses from the floor. And we find that in the first sessions, the responses are lengthy, and the responses exceed 4 minutes. What happens at the end of the sessions is that some of the co-chairs need to cut down the time and save time, and you get cut to 2 minutes. So for this agenda, I would advise that countries prepare for a 2-minute input and submit a written substantial input that can be longer to the Secretariat prior to the session so that we can give everybody an opportunity to talk to the items and also get your full input recorded as part of the session. And I believe that information will be provided on where to send those extended. But I am asking already now up front, with a smile on my face, that we look at the 2-minute summaries from both the regions and from countries so that we can facilitate as many participants and take as many views from the floor with the extensive information then being provided to the Secretariat. When we look at the next slide, please, Agrim, thank you. The committee makes joint decisions and sets directions on the use of geospatial information within national, regional, and global policy frameworks. And this slide shows some of those frameworks. On the left are the global development frameworks, such as the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, the Paris Agreement for Climate Change, the Pact for the Future, and related global commitments. On the right are global geospatial frameworks, the United Nations Integrated Geospatial Information Framework, or the UN-GGIM, is the umbrella framework, and it remains central to the work of this committee. You will also see references to the Global Statistical and Geospatial Framework, or the GSGF, the Framework for Effective Land Administration, also referred to as FELA, and the Global Fundamental Geospatial Data Themes, the Global Geodetic Reference Frame, and other frameworks and guidance materials. As delegates, it is useful to identify which of these frameworks are most relevant to your national priorities and where your country may wish to contribute experience or leadership. Next slide, please. This is the last slide before I hand over to Agrim. This timeline shown in the slide gives us a sense of how the UN-GGIM has developed over time. From 2021 to 2026, the committee was established and gained global recognition. Regional committees and thematic networks were created, and the mandate was strengthened by ECOSOC in 2016. From 2017 to 2021, the work became more institutionalized, consensus frameworks and guidance matured, including the UN-GGIM, the GSGF and FELA, and the Strategic Framework for Disasters. From 2022 to 2026, the focus has shifted strongly towards implementation, country-level uptake, knowledge sharing, capacity development, operationalization, and closing the geospatial digital divide. Looking ahead to 2026 and beyond, the focus is on scale, the strategic framework for 2025 to 2030, and its readiness for the post-2030 agenda, anchoring geospatial information into the broader UN system, and preparing for future ecosystems and emerging technologies. Thank you, Agrim. I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that you are familiar with the overall architecture and the organization of the Committee of Experts, let us turn to the events that have been leading us to the 16th session. So the program is broader than the 3 formal plenary days. The online webinar series began on 9th June and will conclude on 30th July. Most of those webinars have already taken place. The in-person side events will follow on 3rd and 4th August, and the formal annual session will then be held from 5th to 7th August. Let me briefly take you through the digital road to the 16th session. We began on 9th June with the first induction webinar. Since then, webinars have been held on developing national geospatial strategies, and country practices, options for international governance for geodesy, data insights for sustainable development, our changing environment, climate impact, and the disaster resilience, harnessing data for land management and housing, the integration of statistical and geospatial information for policy and monitoring, and most recently, marine geospatial information management on 23rd July. Today, 28th July, we are holding the second induction session, which takes us more directly into the practical arrangements. And one final webinar remains Geographical Names, Innovation and Practice, which will be held on 30th July. All recordings of the webinar is available on our website. The QR code and the link on this slide take you directly to the events calendar where you can access the event information and also the presentations and the recordings. So following the online webinar series, we'll move to the in-person side events at United Nations headquarters. On Monday, 3rd August, next week, the morning will be primarily dedicated to meetings of the regional committees and the thematic networks. These meetings will allow the regions and the networks to organize their work and coordinate their contributions. From 3 p.m. and onward, the several meetings will take place in parallel, including events on international governance for geodesy, policy and legal developments in a changing digital landscape, and the sustainable futures and resilient communities. The high-level group of the UN-GGIM will also begin its 8th plenary meeting. As you can see, some events are open to everyone, while others are restricted to members of the relevant group. The side event program continues on Tuesday, 4th August. The open program includes discussion of the 3rd United Nations World Geospatial Information Congress, digital transformation towards AI, geospatial ecosystem, policy and technical developments at the land-sea interface, integration across the wider data ecosystem, and the use of geospatial information for sustainable development. In parallel, high-level group of the UN-IGF will continue its members meeting. These side events allow more detailed exchange than usually possible during the formal plenary, so they are valuable both for substantive preparation and therefore meeting the experts leading the different areas of work. Following the side events, the formal annual session, the intergovernmental part of the committee's proceedings, will begin on Wednesday, 5th August, in Conference Room 4. The 16th session is composed of 6 formal meetings with 2 meetings each day from Wednesday through Friday. Each morning and afternoon segment is a separate meeting, but all 6 together constitute one session. This is the formal decision-making part of the week. As you can see, the schedule is very busy, so please be prepared and arrive on time. As I already mentioned, the whole meeting will be referred to as a session, while each morning and afternoon segment is a meeting. So therefore, the segment on Wednesday, 5th August from 10:30 to 1 p.m. will be referred to as the first meeting of the session. Organization of work, you can go by the QR code or by the link to check organization of work. It shows us as Mr. Chair mentioned, estimated duration for every agenda item. So these timings are tentative, so the committee generally follows the program closely, but item might take longer when there are many interventions, or it might finish earlier when discussions is brief. Delegates should therefore not enter the room only for the estimated starting time of the item. Please follow the meeting and be present well in advance. Let us turn to the documentation. So the official 16th session website is the central reference point for the provisional agenda, organization of work, side event documents, side event information, and many other resources. So as of today, the summary documents and the all full reports for the agenda items and background documents have been posted on the session website. So the first recommended reading is the rules of procedure, which are available on all 6 official languages of the United Nations. Sorry, you do not need to memorize all the rules, but you should understand who participates in the committee and how the formal meetings is conducted. For example, under Rule 1, the term member means the expert who is the head of the delegation or of a state member of the United Nations. Rule 2 explains that the committee comprises experts designated by member state governments with knowledge across geospatial information and its many related fields. So the session is therefore fundamentally an intergovernmental proceeding. At the same time, UN-GGIM is an inclusive community and the representative of the United Nations systems, international organizations, professional bodies, academia, the private sector, welcomed as observers. Their expertise is valued, and while member states remain the decision makers and are normally invited to intervene first. United Nations document symbols may appear complicated at first, as mentioned by Mr. Chair, but they are simply a filing system. So let us, so I think it was already mentioned by Mr. Chair. I'm not going to repeat, just to explain. So the E means the ECASOC. It refers to ECASOC. C and C.20 is the committee number assigned to UN-GGIM. The year identifies the session documentation, and the final number identifies the individual document. In this example, document 1 is the provisional agenda. So there are additional symbols here, but those are less used in the proceedings of the Committee of Experts. So the provisional agenda lists all the items that the committee will consider during the session. It begins with the procedural matters, such as the election of officers and adoption of the agenda, and then moves through the substantive program of work. Organization of work provides the sequence, the day, meeting, and the estimated time at which each agenda item is expected to be discussed. Together, these documents give you the choreography of the session, what will be considered, in what order, and what approximately at approximately what time. So this slide shows the full substantive agenda and the report symbol associated with each area of work. It reflects the architecture we reviewed earlier, regional committees, thematic networks, the future geospatial information ecosystem, UN-IGIF, geodesy, sustainable development, climate and the disaster resilience, statistical and the geospatial integration, land, marine information, policy and the legal frameworks, standard geographical names, and the United Nations Global Geospatial Centers. For most substantive agenda items, there are two core documents. It's a summary and a report. So the summary provides a concise overview of the agenda item and is available in 6 official United Nations languages: Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. So the report gives more detail. It's prepared by the relevant expert group, working group, regional or thematic network, or by the Secretariat as appropriate. It describes the work undertaken since the previous session, progress against the work plan, consultations, challenges, and proposed next steps. Each report concludes with the points for discussion, which can be found in the final section of each report. Participants are encouraged to read all the documents and become familiar with the points on which they may wish to intervene. In essence, the Committee of Experts is invited to contribute to the discussion and make interventions related to the specific points and considerations presented at the annual session. I will now hand the floor back to Mr. Chair, who will explain the roles of members and observers during the 16th session. Mr. Chair, back to you.
I am here, Ikram. Sorry, I just was looking for my buttons. Colleagues, yeah, thank you, Ikram. I think that's very useful, and it took us through a very interesting part of how to read these documents, how the agenda works, and I'm glad you also mentioned about time constraints. I find those last day becomes very, very, very intense. So your role in New York. I think the best advice that I could give you is to begin preparing now. If you are the head of a delegation, begin reaching out to your delegates and identifying who will attend. If you are a delegate and you have been contacted, reach out to your head of delegation to express your interest. Participants are encouraged to become acquainted with the UN-GGIM work items, review the meeting documents, and they are substantial. Attend the webinar series as you have been doing. I hope everybody attended twice. And then also read the summaries and the reports as they become available and prepare national positions where needed. You do not have to prepare a position on every item. However, there are items that may be specific for your country. One important practical recommendation is to plan and make contact for a visit with your permanent mission. In New York, this is an opportunity to explain why your delegation is attending the Committee of Experts and why geospatial information management matters to the work of your country. While in New York, please actively contribute to the work of the committee by making statements and interventions according to the relevant agenda topics. Be prepared to share experiences, ideas, and solutions, and national priorities. The next slide, please. No, sorry, I think, yeah, this is the right slide. Thanks. Slide 29. Interventions are the way delegations contribute directly to formal proceedings. Delegates are encouraged to review the draft decisions and provide appropriate interventions by topic. At the end of each agenda item, the Secretariat summarizes the main discussion points, and these points become part of the draft decisions. At the end of the 16th session, those draft decisions are reviewed and refined. This process ultimately contributes to the final report of the session. For that reason, interventions matter. They help shape the record of the committee and the direction of the global geospatial information management. Next slide, please. For participants attending the session for the first time, entering the conference room at the United Nations can feel intimidating. And I think that's very normal. The process itself is quite straightforward. When you wish to speak, use your microphone panel and press the microphone button. The light will turn red, and you will wait for the chair to give you the floor. Once offered the floor, begin respectfully. For example, thank you, Mr. Chair, or thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the floor. Then speak on behalf of your delegation using language such as, my delegation wishes to, please, and here it comes again from me, please keep the intervention short and focused. The KISS principle applies. Keep it simple, short, KISS, let me spell KISS correctly. K-I-S-S. Keep it short and simple. A good intervention is usually no more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Address delegations respectively as distinguished experts, delegates, or representatives, and use correct forms of address. This shows respect and helps prevent misunderstandings in an international setting. I think that's pretty clear. The next slide, please. It's important that the work doesn't stop when the annual session closes. After and between sessions, we need to keep the momentum moving at national, regional, and global levels. That means communicating session decisions nationally, coordinating with your delegation, advocating and supporting the implementation of the UN-GGIM frameworks and policies, and raising awareness of geospatial information across government, sectors, and institutions. It also means staying involved, contributing to expert and working group discussions, participating in the virtual meetings and webinars, reviewing sessional documents, providing feedback, building partnerships with neighboring countries and peers, and monitoring the UN-GGIM website and LinkedIn channels. The annual session is not only a meeting, it's part of the continuing cycle of implementation, learning, and cooperation, and I'd like to add community. We've made some wonderful friends over the years, and colleagues that we can rely on for information and shared ideas. Next slide, please. All 6 meetings of the session will be broadcast live on United Nations Live TV web. Interpretation will be available during the sessions in all 6 official United Nations languages, and recordings will also be posted on the UN-GGIM session web pages. Participants are encouraged to follow updates, share information, and repost UN-GGIM content through the website and LinkedIn. This is another way to keep colleagues informed and to connect the formal sessions in New York with a wider geospatial community. Next slide, Agram, is the building layout. So this slide provides you with the practical logistics of the building if you haven't been there before. The session is expected to take place in Conference Room 4, located on the first basement level of the General Assembly building at the United Nations headquarters. Please allow enough time to enter the UN complex, pass through security, find the correct building and room, and be seated before the meeting begins. The building layout, link, and QR code are provided in the reference. Next slide, please. This slide explains the seating arrangements in the conference room itself. Member states are seated in the area by country name in alphabetical order. Observers, including international professionals, organizations, academia, and private sector, are generally seated in the gallery, If you do not find your country name, please ask a conference officer or a member of the UN-GGIM Secretariat staff for clarification on seating arrangements. Seating may be adjusted at the start of a meeting, so we ask for your patience where needed. One of them, I just want to add this before we go to the next slide. Please remember that you can only take water into the conference area. And I also suggest that those that bring their own water canisters along or holders so that you can replenish them at the water machines. Otherwise, you look like me walking around with one of those little aluminium bottles everywhere. All right, final report for the session. After the session concludes, the formal report is usually issued in September. It includes agreed and reviewed decisions of the committee, as well as the provisional agenda and for the following year. The final report is important because it becomes the formal record of the session and the basis for follow-up work. Previous session reports are available online and are useful examples for understanding how decisions are captured. So we move to the next slide. This gives us a sense of the scale of participation. At the 15th session in August 2025, there were 84 member states attending with 296 delegates. There were also 83 observer entities and 93 representatives for a total of 389 participants. This shows that the UN-GGIM is a significant and active global forum. It places, it is a place to network, learn from other countries, share national achievements and requirements, and contribute to the advancement of the United Nations Global Geospatial Agenda. So, colleagues, next slide, please. This brings us to the end of the induction presentation. We have another input from and closing remarks that will now be delivered by His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Asayal, and thereafter we will have a presentation on the third World Conference that's being held in Jeddah in November from Mr. Al-Mabruk, also from Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Akram.
Dr. Al-Sayal.
Thank you. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So anyway, it's all around. So my closing statements will be as follows. Distinguished speakers, esteemed colleagues, representatives of member states, partner, ladies and gentlemen. As we conclude today's webinar, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all our speakers, moderators, and participants for your valuable contribution and active engagements. Today, discussion once again demonstrates the growing importance of geospatial information in addressing global challenges and supporting evidence-based and decision-making. The insight shared today reflects the strength of our international geospatial community and our shared commitment to advancing sustainable development through collaboration, innovation, and trusted geospatial information. This webinar is an important milestone in our digital road to 16th session of the United Nations Committee of Experts in Global Geospatial Information Management, UN-GGIM. The webinar series has provided an excellent platform to deepen our understanding of the agenda items, exchange experiences, and strengthen cooperation among member states, the United Nations system, academia, private sector, and wider geospatial community before we meet in New York. As the co-chair of the UN-GGIM, I encourage all member states to continue engaging actively in the discussions and to come to New York prepared to work together in advancing our common vision for strengthening global geospatial information management. Together, we have an opportunity to further demonstrate how geospatial information underpin the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and supporting resilience in inclusive and informed society. On behalf of the Bureau, I extend my sincere thanks to the United Nations Secretariats, the webinar organizer, technical teams, and everyone who has contributed to make this webinar series success. I warmly invited all of you to participate in the 16th session of the United Nations GGIM and its associate side events, which will be held from 3 to 7th August 2026 at the United Nations headquarters in New York. I request you to coordinate your 16th session for the United Nations GGIM. I look forward to welcoming you there as we continue our collective efforts to strengthen global geospatial information management for the benefits of all. I also take this opportunity to invite you all to the 3rd United Nations World Geospatial Mission Congress to be held in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia in November 2026. I would request my colleague, Mohammed Al-Mabrouk, to provide you a brief in the Congress. And I thank you all once again for your participation and commitment. I wish you all continued sincere success, safe travel, and I look forward seeing you in New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good day, everyone. It's a pleasure to provide you with an update on the progress for the 3rd United Nations World Geospatial Information Congress. And this presentation highlights the key milestones achieved up to date. Next, please. So during this presentation, I will provide you with an overview of major activities undertaken in the preparation for this Congress. This includes the planning timeline, the global call for abstract, our communication and outreach efforts, the abstract review process, and the development of the substantive program, concluding with the overall of the program at the glance. Next, please. So, as you know that we are entering a period of the unique technological transformation where AI, Earth observation, digital twin, and the geospatial technologies are rapidly converging. And this presents an opportunity for the global geospatial community to build a trust, integrated geospatial ecosystem that enable better decision making and support the sustainable development. Next, please. So as we think that the Congress is about, shaping the future of geospatial information, it's not simply, discussing emerging, technology. And it will strengthen the international cooperation, promote, digital transformation, build the resilience on the global geospatial ecosystem that serve the governments and the societies alike. And also, next please. We are here in Saudi Arabia honored to next please. As I was just mentioning that we are here in Saudi Arabia honored to host this Congress in partnership with the United Nations under the UN-GGIM framework. And through the Vision 2030 and the leadership of the General Authority of Survey and Geospatial Information, the Kingdom remains committed to advancing the geospatial innovation and strengthening the international cooperation. Next, please. So we are expecting that the Congress will bring together more than 1,800 participants from over 100 countries, representing, governments, international organizations, industry, academia, and civil society. And it will serve as a global platform to build partnership, exchange knowledge, and advancing the role of geospatial information and addressing global challenges. Next, please. So the planning for the Congress began in September last year with the establishment of the International Advisory Committee and the development of its terms and reference. Since then, the important milestone has been achieved, including the compilation of the program structure and the global call for abstract and the review of the submission. We are now in the final stage of completing the substantive program before the Congress in November 2026. Next, please. So the call for abstract opened in the 23rd of February this year and remain open until the 6th of May. And the also review process were concluded over the several months to ensure through fair evaluation for every submission. And also notifications has been issued since mid-July with the speaker's registration continue ahead of the Congress in November. Next, please. And to encourage a broader participation, a comprehensive global outreach campaign was implemented. This includes a targeted communication with the stakeholders, cooperation with the UN-GGIM regional committees, social media's engagement, also global webinars and promotional materials distributed in international events. And these activities actually helped reach in a wide and diverse audience across the global geospatial community. Next, please. So as a key components of our outreach strategy was a direct engagement with all the 5 regional committees within the UN-GGIM. In addition, 2 global information webinars were organized to explain the submission process, answering questions, and encourage participation to be a part of this Congress. And I believe these activities strengthen awareness and contribute to the high level of the interest that we have already received. Next, please. So the call for abstract was designed to attract contribution across all the Congress focus area and themes tracks. And it's encouraged participation from government leaders, practitioners, researchers, innovators, academia, industry, and importantly, the next generation of the geospatial professionals. And the objective was to ensure that the Congress reflects the diverse representation and experience from all around the world. Next, please. So we have received our review. The abstract submission was undertaken by the International Task Team, representing from the government agencies, international organizations, academia, and private sectors. And the team met regularly, and they have been conducting this review period or review of these abstracts. Next, please. So each abstract was carefully assessed based on its relevance to the Congress themes, the quality and clarity of the proposed contribution, and it's the potential impact on the policy and practices. And this is followed also forward-looking perspectives. And the review process also emphasized the balance of the geographic representation, diversity of the point or viewpoint, and also from the next generation professionals. Next, please. So the response to the call of abstract exceeded actually the expectation, with a total of 450 submissions received from around the world. Following a review process, 307 abstracts were selected, with additional 51 placed on a waiting list. And these acceptance submissions will continue to approximately 256 available speaking opportunities through the Congress program. Next, please. So this slide presents an overview of the acceptance abstract through various statistical analysis. Next, please. And also this slide also indicates the geographical balance and the sectoral representation. Next, please. So the substantive program is organized around 4 strategic pillars, which are the vision, integration, innovation, and the future. And these pillars are intended to guide the discussion that move from the geospatial information toward the geospatial insight for informed decision-making and sustainable development. Next, please. So the program or the Congress program has been carefully designed to maximize the engagement and the knowledge exchange. It includes 6 interactive plenary sessions with 64 parallel sessions and opportunities for panel discussion involving experts from across the world. And we believe this structure provides an effective platform for sharing experience, discussing emerging trends, and promoting cooperation. Next, please. So the Congress program is organized into thematic tracks covering the governance, interoperability, AI, innovation, people-centric outcomes and partnership, as well as investment and the regional and specialized domain. Next, please. And through the regular virtual meeting, the committee review the progress, provide the strategic advice, and ensure that the program remain in quality, relevance, and the global perspective. Next, please. So the day 2 of the Congress will feature the combination of the plenary and parallel sessions that focus on the innovation, technology, governance, and practical implementation. Next, please. And reaching to the final day of the Congress, that will focus on the future direction, strengthening partnership, and identifying practical outcomes that will support the continued advancement of the global geospatial information management. And this discussion will conclude with the key message with recommendation for the future cooperation. Next, and my last slide, please. So Jeddah is my hometown, is leading gateway to a kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It's over a well-established international hub for extensive infrastructure and connectivity for hosting the global event. Our preparation for the Congress continue to progress as planned in close coordination with the Secretariat of the UN-GGIM and the relevant national authorities. We continue also monitoring the regional development closely with remain engagement with the appropriate authority to access or to assist any development that may be relevant to the Congress. And it is important to note that Jeddah is located far away from the current regional concern. At this time, preparation for logistic arrangement for the Congress is remain on the schedule. So as we started saying that we remain committed to provide a secure and safe and welcoming environment for all participants. And we are looking forward to welcome you all in Jeddah to a successful and impactful Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Sayed. Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Mabrouk. Mr. Chair, over to you. You are muted.
Sorry about that. So colleagues, that brings us to the end of today's presentation. We want to thank you for joining us. We will continue this road to the 16th session over the next few days. You must all travel safely. Make sure all your documentation is packed correctly, that you've got the right clothes. Look at the weather in the city. We encourage you to review the documentation and then to prepare to travel on the weekend so that we can see you in New York for the 16th session. We look forward to your active participation and we thank you very much. And Akram, thank you for preparing so well for the session. We always appreciate the Secretariat, to my co-chair, Dr. Muhammad Asayel. We always learn from your wisdom, and thank you very much for the excellent guidance. And Ms. Al-Mabrouk, a stalwart in supporting the UN-GGIM, and thank you for all the efforts with the preparations for the World Conference in November in your hometown in Jeddah. And we really look forward to being part of that and contributing to the world's largest geospatial showpiece that we run with Saudi Arabia. So thank you very much, everyone. I will then close on this, and we'll see all the friendly faces in New York. Thank you. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank
See you
you.
soon
Bye-bye.
in New
Bye.
York. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.